Hi, I'm Rachel, and if you've been following my journey, you know that back in December I took the plunge and bought a small 7.9 metre sailboat with the goal of learning to sail. But, as most boat owners know, it's not always smooth sailing. I spent the last few months focused on repairs and fixing up a lot of issues. Hopefully now the job list is finally shrinking, I can spend some more time learning to sail. The boat I've purchased is called the Compass 790. It's a cruising yacht built by Compass Yachts, which is a New Zealand-based company. The sailboat was introduced in the 1980s and has gained a reputation as a reliable and sturdy vessel for recreational sailors and those interested in longer ocean passages. I recently heard of an interesting story of a Compass 790 that sailed from New Zealand to Tonga, which is a significant ocean passage of around 1,100 nautical miles across the Pacific Ocean. As I mentioned in my last video, along with rewiring the boat, we've also installed a 40-watt solar panel. We use some sturdy brackets to mount it securely and ran the wiring as neatly as possible from the exterior into the interior. The regulator is positioned close to the house battery, and we've also installed an isolator switch to keep everything under control. Securing the starter box properly is an insurance requirement. Jason measures up the spot for the new battery box, builds a housing to keep it slightly raised off of the hull while ensuring it sits level, and once installed, we seal the surrounds with silicone to make sure it's fully watertight. Next, we remove more of the boat's redundant wiring and piping. We've filled about 3 full bin bags so far. This time we focus on removing anything related to the old LPG system, which would once have powered the oven. We also repurposed the old cigarette outlet by installing a charger outlet. Calculating the fuel level was a bit of a puzzle. With just a tape measure on hand, we measured the tank's dimensions inside and worked out its capacity. Later on, we made a custom dipstick with marked levels for easier reading. One evening after work, Jason and I installed a secure housing for a new camp stove I'd purchased, which I replaced the old oven with. Plumbing and gas would have been a hassle, plus boat insurance now requires gas certificates, which would have been another hurdle I wanted to avoid. During the week, I made some winch covers to try to protect them from the UV damage and hopefully help everything last a little bit longer with some proper care. Also, the boat berth next to me had some, so I shamelessly stole their idea. Since buying the boat, I've been putting together a little cheat sheet book with key things to remember. A bit nerdy, I know, but should be handy if I forget something while I'm on the water or if I'm on my own. The marina I keep my boat in is tidal, which means that there are restrictions on when you can and can't get your boat in and out of it. Before it became a marina, the area was mainly farmland and residential, with a small fishing village. The surrounding land was originally home to Maori settlements, with Maori iwi tribes occupying the area. It was an important location for the Maori people as it was near the Waitemata harbour, which provided access to the rich resources of the ocean. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it began to develop into a more residential area as Auckland expanded. By the mid-1900s, the area was transitioning from farmland to housing. The marina as we know it today began to take shape in the 1980s. as the North Shore and Auckland's coastal areas experienced a boom in recreational boating and water-based activities. To give a quick summary of works completed over the last 2 months, we fixed the broken cabin flooring and given it an epoxy coating for added strength, sealed all the external fittings as most of them were leaking into the cabin whenever it rained. The freshwater holding tank had a leak, so we removed and repaired it but couldn't reinstall it. We've started to install an electric bilge pump, which is a requirement for all new insurance policies. Removed all of the gas piping as it wasn't hooked up or working. As for the electrics, nothing was hooked up either, other than the starter battery, so we've removed all of the excess wiring which led to nowhere or was just lying in the holds, and have installed a safer setup which again is needed for insurance. We fixed the manual toilet flush, but that turned out to be a bit of a nightmare. We've investigated into a moody engine and seem to have made some improvements. We've managed to get one sink hooked up to seawater, and of course we've been working through a bunch of other issues that I've forgotten. Aesthetically, we've given the whole interior a major refresh too. I've painted everything with 2-pack marine paint, including the lockers, bilge and anchor locker, added some removable white vinyl to the bulkheads, and even added some pretty tiles. Although some comments on my last video suggested that all the work I've completed is to be expected, the reality is that I purchased the boat because I was assured there were no major problems. Of course, every boat owner has to invest in maintenance, but the costs of repair in relation to the cost of the purchase price are a bit hard to swallow. The Hauraki Gulf, which is where we are sailing, is a diverse marine environment located just off the coast of Auckland. It covers an area of around 1,500 square metres and is home to over 50 islands, some of which are accessible for day trips or longer stays, serviced by ferries from varying locations around Auckland. David and I sail around several local islands, at times anchoring up for a rest, soaking up the sun, or catching a little sleep, David. Or sometimes we're just killing time until the tide's high enough to head back into the marina. David's been teaching me how to sail into anchorages, and then when the wind picked up a little for the first time, we reefed the mainsail and furled in the headsail. We both enjoy being on the water together. Well, I'm enjoying David's company and hopefully it's mutual. With one casualty being the main halyard sheathing itself, I'll need to replace that. The marina is currently upgrading the docks to floating ones, rather than the current setup, which are wooden, and each owner provides and affixes their own ladder to climb up and down as the tide rises and falls. They suggest I move on to a berth on the adjacent pier, which has already been upgraded, so Jason and I go over to check it out. After Jason attaches my newly purchased lines, we head over with some huge fenders attached to my boat, as there are 2 big launches on either side of the new berth. We then find out that the new berth is way too long for my small sailboat. The bow lines can't hold it steady because of the angle from the bow to the poles, so we take the boat back to the old pier and attach a replacement ladder to the dock, as the old one has become pretty dilapidated. David and I take the boat out again for a day trip, letting the wind guide us wherever it wants to go and with no plan. This time we head north to Gulf Harbour and Shakespeare Regional Park. Jason was out on his own boat again, using Google Maps, and could see where we were, so came to say hello and captured some great footage of us along the way. With light winds, it gave me the perfect opportunity to process and digest everything we were doing. I wasn't feeling rushed by the wind to act quickly, which allowed me time to actually understand why and how everything was working. Shakespeare Regional Park is a beautiful natural area located on the Whangaparoa Peninsula, northeast of Auckland. The following weekend, Jason joined me on the sailboat for the second time since I had owned it. This was the first time I had gone out sailing without David, who has helped me in so many ways, in not only teaching me how to sail, but also getting a huge amount of work completed. I was very nervous, worrying that I wouldn't remember everything I'd been taught, and whether Jason would feel safe with me at the helm, especially seeing as he's a commercial skipper. The pressure was on. Luckily, the weather gods were on our side. There was hardly any wind again, which took some of the pressure off of me and kept me from feeling flustered. On the flip side though, there wasn't quite enough wind to really sail anywhere. That, plus a big swell rolling in where we had anchored for dinner and hoped to stay for the night, we decided to head back to the marina and spent the night in my berth rather than at anchor as planned. As mentioned previously, the marina is tidal, so we ended up hooking onto a mooring ball at the entrance, the first time I've ever done that or even seen a mooring ball close up, and waited until high tide at 12:45 am to hop back in and tie up. Bringing the boat back into the berth is easily the most stressful part of taking it out, and honestly, I worry about it the entire time we're on the water. On Sunday morning, with the wind still light, we decided to take Jason's trailer boat instead. His boat is also pretty retro, a Fireglass Dominator, a classic New Zealand built trailer boat first introduced in the mid-1980s. We motor north, passing Rakino, and head on to a group of small islands called the Noises, where we take our chances fishing with some soft baits. When the weather is great in Auckland, there's truly nowhere like it. Luckily, we've been having an amazing summer and start to the autumn, but when it rains, it really pours here, so you have to make the most of the good weather when it comes. In the Hauraki Gulf, the legal minimum size for taking snapper is 30 centimetres in length, measured from the tip of the fish's nose to the fork of the tail, excluding the tail fin. So unfortunately, this little chap had to go back in. Boat life isn't always glamorous, but definitely nothing can go wrong with this toilet. As we head back into the marina, which is also where we launched Jason's trailer boat, we check in on my berth's bow poles. There's an obstruction that's preventing the foam-filled tyre from rising and falling properly with the tide. We do what we can with what we have to remove the oysters, but decide we'll need to come back another day with a saw to get rid of the wooden thing that's attached to the pole. Join me again next time where I'll continue my learning to sail and boat ownership journey.